Halla, my precious little mortals. Tonight's tales won't just crawl beneath your bed. They'll whisper your name from the darkness below. We've got 3 bedtime stories for you, all about what might be lurking under your bed, watching, waiting, breathing. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and don't forget to like and subscribe, or something might reach out when the lights go off. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tales of Darkness. So, I moved into this apartment last autumn. Top floor, corner, unit. The building's old, but solid. One of those pre-war blocks with thick walls. Wood floors that groan when you walk, and radiators that hiss all night like they're alive. I liked the quiet. Didn't have to worry about upstairs neighbors, because there are none. No one above me. Just a flat roof. But it didn't stay quiet for long. The first time I heard it, I thought it was my imagination. I was lying in bed, scrolling aimlessly through my phone, when I heard breathing, not my own. It was soft, almost like a sigh repeated, in a slow rhythm. In, out, like someone was under my bed, hiding, waiting. I paused my breathing to check. The sound continued. I remember sitting up slowly, holding my phone like a weapon, flashlight pointing everywhere. Tired. Leaned over the edge of the bed and looked underneath. Just dust. A box of old shoes. Nothing that could breathe. I told myself it was the radiator, or the pipes, or maybe the neighbor's TV vibrating through the floor. But the next night, to 13 a.m., the breathing returned. Same slow rhythm. Same place. From under the bed, I started checking every night before going to sleep. Under the bed, behind the curtain, inside the closet. Nothing. But no matter how often I checked, the breathing always started again at exactly 2:30. Not to 12. Not to 40. Always to 30. I bought a white noise machine, thinking maybe I could drown it out. I tried sleeping with music on, but somehow, the moment that clock turned to 13, I'd wake up. Even if I didn't hear it at first, my body just knew. Eventually, I stopped sleeping in my bedroom altogether. The couch became my new bed. But a few nights in, I started hearing it again. The breathing. Only now. It wasn't under the bed. It was behind the couch. That's when I realized it wasn't the room. It was me. I went back to the bedroom out of desperation. Did something different. I set up my phone to record a time-lapse video aimed at the underside of my bed. Hit record. Went to sleep the next morning. I checked the footage. Mostly dark. Nothing visible. But around 2:13 a.m., the camera glitched. Just for a second. A flicker of static, and something like a shape. Low to the ground. Gone before I could pause it properly. The breathing didn't stop. In fact, it got closer. I started feeling it in my body, not just hearing it, feeling it, like a cold exhale on the soles of my feet, like pressure beneath the mattress, lifting ever so slightly, as if someone was shifting their weight. One night I snapped, threw the mattress off the frame, flipped the bed, emptied the entire room, stood in the center, chest heaving, hands shaking. There was nothing. And then I heard it again, right behind me, a breath. I turned around. The room was empty. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next evening, I tried a different tactic. Set my alarm 4 to 10. Pretended to sleep. Laid. Still. No breathing. Yet 2:12. I clutched the blanket. 2:30. There it was. Clear. Measured. Closer than ever. Right below me. This time, I stayed still. Didn't even blink. Waited. Then I heard something new. A whisper to my ear. From behind. Low. Dry. Like lips moving against the floorboards. He said, "You always check too late." Some places echo with memories, others with things never meant to be heard. This is not just a haunted apartment. It's a trap, one that whispers through the walls. And once you hear it, it's already too late. I got home at 3:28 a.m., exhausted and half-frozen. My phone was dead. I didn't want to wake my roommate. So I tried the spare key I kept hidden above the doorframe. It didn't fit. That was strange. I tried again. Still no luck. I knocked softly. Nothing. I peeked through the small window next to the door. The hallway lights were on. I could hear faint humming inside. My roommate was always a night owl, but still why wasn't he answering? I called out his name, quietly. No response. I waited. Then, something inside moved, gust, a shadow across the hallway. I saw the shape walk toward the living room. The door clicked. It was unlocked. I stepped inside cautiously. "Hey, it's just me," I whispered. The living room was dim, lit only by the kitchen light. Something was cooking. The scent was odd. Not bad, but unfamiliar. "Bro," I called out again. No answer. Pride checked his room empty. Bathroom empty. Kitchen empty, too. But a large pot simmered on the stove, bubbling lazily. I turned the heat off and looked around. The silence was heavy. Something didn't feel right. I noticed the hallway closet was slightly ajar. I opened it fully. Nothing inside. Just a faint smell like old cleaning supplies, mixed with metal. Then I heard the noise. From my room, a soft shuffle. I moved slowly toward the door and pushed it open. Everything looked normal, except for the floor vent. It was open, the cover lying beside it. We didn't have central air. I crouched to take a closer look. Something inside shifted. Then I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. I backed away slowly, trying to stay calm. My bed creaked. I hadn't touched it. I knelt down and looked beneath. There was someone under the bed, pressed against the floor, face down, perfectly still. I stumbled back. That's when I noticed something in the corner. My freezer wide open. Inside were jars, not labeled but filled with strange dark liquids and indistinct objects, barely visible through the frost. One looked like it had a handprint inside, frozen on the glass. I closed the freezer, heart pounding. Then I noticed my room's walls slightly damp. By a dark sheen pulsed slowly, like condensation, but somehow wrong, and the bed creaked again. I turned. My blanket shifted. A voice, barely a whisper, came from under the bed. You're not supposed to be here yet. Let me know. Ivri estrism lagineria. Voiceover Yului. Suau. SB adaptum. C. Visual. Pentru. Capcut. You said. New. E. Nisi. Makar. Jew mate. Din. Katira. Dot. Te rogfi. Iten. Satore Safai. Mailunga Cam. 3, 2, 4 minutee. Norati. ChatGPT said, I perfectoque. Dreptit. Jabui is men. Inane. Lungimea. Original. Dare sua ajuste. E me doar. Onde este necessário. Astifel ecate. Esse fi. Accepted to Capco. Si petrivit. Pentru. Unpublic. Lagfara. Appeared tensunia. Boy. Paestra. Integritata. Povi. G. Voi. Correcta stilio. Boy. Elimina. Detalii lecada. Potter. NC. LC. Politisa. Convoy rider. En inglesa. Fluenta. Si narabilla. Revisia. I got home around 3:28 a.m. Exhausted. My fingers numb from the cold. My phone was dead, and I really didn't want to wake my roommate. I remembered the spare key I'd hidden months ago above the doorframe. I reached up and found it easily, but when I slid it into the lock, it didn't work. Weird. I tried again, more forcefully this time. Still nothing. Sighing, I knocked quietly. No answer. A soft light leaked through the thin curtains on the living room window. That was odd. My roommate usually kept them shut tight. I stepped off the porch and looked through the side window. The lights in the hallway were on. I could see movement, a shadow gliding silently from the hallway into the kitchen. The shape matched my roommate's height, but something about the way it moved was off, almost like it wasn't walking, more like gliding. A second later, I heard the door unlock from the inside. I froze. Then the knob turned. I stepped back instinctively. The door creaked open, just a few inches. No one stood behind it. Hello, I called out gently. Nothing. I waited, heart racing. No voice answered. No footsteps came. I cautiously pushed the door open the rest of the way. The living room looked mostly normal, except for one detail. The TV was on, displaying static, volume low but not muted. I didn't remember leaving it like that. The air felt unusually warm, and the smell. It was a mix of cooking spices and something I couldn't quite place. Metallic, maybe. Almost like iron, but faint. Barely noticeable. Hey man, you awake? I asked, stepping in and closing the door behind me. No response. I walked down the hallway. Bah! The bathroom light was off, and the door was wide open. No one inside. I moved toward his room, dark, silent, empty. I stepped into the kitchen. A large pot simmered on the stove, thick steam curling lazily into the air. The lid was off. Inside, I saw something boiling, some kind of stew maybe, but it had stringy pieces in it, like sinew or overly thick noodles. The scent turned my stomach. The back door was locked, windows shut. I turned the stove off. Then I heard it, bare creaking noise. From my room, I froze. My door had been closed when I left. Now it was open, just a crack. I tiptoed down the hallway, each step slow and careful. I pushed the door open. Nothing seemed out of place. My bed was made, my desk cluttered as usual, but the air was damp, like someone had been sweating in here with the windows closed. And then I saw it, the vent near the foot of the bed. The cover had been removed, screws scattered around it. I knelt beside it. There was a dark space underneath, barely enough to squeeze through. It should been sealed. We didn't have a central system, just electric heaters. Breathe. I leaned closer, breathing, steady, slow. Not mine. I stood up so fast I nearly my bed creaked softly behind me. I hadn't touched it. Crouched slowly and looked underneath, and I saw someone pressed tightly against the floor, arms tucked beneath them, face down. They weren't moving completely still, almost like they were asleep. I whispered, Who are you? Nothing. No twitch, no flinch. Just that slow, steady breathing. I backed out of the room and grabbed my phone. From my coat, I walked back toward the kitchen to use the landline. That's when I noticed the freezer door wide open. Inside were several jars. Glass, frosted, no labels. Inside one, I could see something pressed against the glass. A pale, shape-flesh-toned. A hand. Maybe it was hard to tell. Another jar held something darker, organic-looking, submerged in a thick red liquid. I closed the freezer quickly. My hands were shaking. I turned around, and the lights flickered once, twice. Then they went out. Silence. No fridge. Hum. No buzz from the TV. Just darkness. Then my phone buzzed violently in my pocket. I yanked it out somehow. It had powered on. A notification blinked on the screen. No text, just a voice message. I pressed play. A whisper, low, broken, almost like someone speaking through a fan. You weren't supposed to come back tonight. My blood ran cold. And then another creak from my bedroom. Footsteps slow, barefoot, moving toward the door. I ran like never before. If you're still here, then maybe you sleep with the lights off. But tonight, double check under your bed. Sometimes it's not what you hear. It's what draws you in. A perfume in the air that wasn't there a second ago. Tss, a door left, slightly open. A whisper that somehow knows your name. If you want more tales that make your spine tingle, subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. And remember, the darkest stories are the ones that could be real.